Hello again. I hope this works this time because the last time I did it, I had a problem with the sound. I don't know why. But anyway, I'm doing a review of this awesome book, Revealing Pig's Crap by Kat Kerr. Highly recommend it. Thing is that Kat Kerr says in her book that if you're really good, you get Jesus to come round after you died and personally escort you to heaven. And he comes in what's like a cable car, but it hasn't got any cables, and it goes through space, because heaven, apparently, according to Kat Kerr, is outside of space. It's on the edge of space or something. And so you get to see all these galaxies and everything. All 14 trillion light years of it, however long that takes, I don't know, maybe 14 trillion years, but I think that's beside the point, really. So Kat Kerr, when I was going on about this chap called Oral Roberts, and this other character called Richard Sigmund was talking about Oral Roberts in his book, so I thought I'd get on the internet and find out who he was. Apparently he was a 33-degree Freemason and a big shot leader of one of these charismatic kind of churches that they've got in America, where they've got these huge followings. And so if you're like a big charismatic preacher, you get Jesus to come round and take you off to heaven, which is good, isn't it? So in heaven, Kat Kerr, she gets to be whisked off to heaven many, many times. All her life has been whisked off to heaven. Every 5 minutes. She doesn't know when it's going to happen, but it does happen. She says it does. So in heaven, like Jesus said, "In my Father's house there are many mansions." Well, some scholars say that perhaps he was talking in spiritual terms, because the word used for mansions is similar to the word used to describe the alcoves in the temple in Jerusalem. So, but Kat Kerr says they're literally mansions. So, depending on how good you are, you get a different sized mansion. More elaborate and greater the greater you are. And although you don't get any company, you don't have any girlfriends or anything in heaven. You're on your own, and practically on your own in your mansion. You get to sit on big couches and all that, and clean your mansion and relax in your mansion, and you get these people coming around every 5 minutes, or so she says. You should never be lonely, because you always get people coming around to visit you, probably like apostles and prophets and the general public coming around. So that's all right then. You don't need any of that girlfriend stuff now. Don't need anything like that. You just live in your mansion, get on with it. This is what Kat Kerr says. So, sorry, my microphone's fallen off. No parties or anything, no dancing, no music. You just, you wander around the park. You sit on chairs and stuff, and sometimes you get to see God, and God is like on this big hill with steps up to it. And at the top you've got a fence, and there are angels guarding God, and you can't get past the fence. And there are loads of bodies lying around. Well, they're alive, they're people, but they're sort of like lying on the ground. And you sort of have to pick your way between all the fallen people to get up to God. And of course, Kat Kerr, being a great woman of God, she can get right up next to God. And she even knows what's inside God, because she says that Satan walked on the stones of God, the fiery stones of God. I think it's in Ezekiel where Ezekiel talks about Satan and the fiery stones. Personally, I think that might be some kind of metaphorical thing he's talking about. I don't know, and I don't think many people do know. But Kat Kerr thinks it's real stones inside God, and so there you go. So another thing she's quite keen on is these little fire babies that look like gingerbread men, and these things float around God, and they beg God, plead with God to be incarnated, because these are pre-incarnation entities, and they get to be sent to Earth to be incarnated in a human body as a human. But I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it because if you think about how many people are born again in the Spirit of God, it's not very many really. And if you're not born again in the Spirit of God, you go to hell. That's all there is to it. So statistically, these little spirit babies, these fire babies, are statistically likely to end up in the fires of hell for all eternity. So if I was up there, if I was as holy and great as Kat Kerr, I'd go up there and say to these little fire babies, perhaps you ought to think again about pleading with God to be incarnated as a human being, because it's not that great. You need to have the gospel presented to you. You need to be baptized in the Holy Spirit, and in order to be reconciled to Christ. But Kat Kerr says it happens, so it must happen because it's in her book, and that's what she says. So although it's a bit heretical, according to Orthodox Christianity, it's a bit of a heresy, really. But never mind, it's in her book. So her books, by the way, they come in two parts. There are 2 books, revealing Pig's Crap 1 and 2. I bought the second book in the series because I wanted to read it for myself and find out what it was like. It was an expensive book, and it's a very thin book, and the typeface is very big, so you don't get a lot of information in there. I read it in one afternoon in about 4 hours, and there's some crummy pictures in there. She says that they're wonderful. It's a wonderful illustrator, but when you have a look at it, it's like pencil sketches. I think probably Kat Kerr has been inspired to copy stuff off Richard Sigmund, who wrote another book very similar. He also had Oral Roberts in it, and they both have these Freemasonic pillars, like you get in the Washington Monument. These are in heaven apparently, and depending on how great you are, you get your great big monument in heaven as well. And Richard Sigmund's got lots of these living statues, which he's escorted around heaven by these 2 grumpy angels who never answer a straight question to him. It's a bit like on Curb Your Enthusiasm, where David's, he goes up to heaven, and he meets 2 angels up there, and he has an argument with them. I mean, that's a bit like what Richard Sigmund, except Richard Sigmund didn't have the gumption to actually say to the angels, look, come on, I've asked you a straight question, now answer. But he said, oh no, these fearful angels gave me a stern look, and that was the end of it for me. I didn't ask them anything more. Then one of these angels says, who are you to inquire of the mysteries of God? Oh yeah, okay, yeah, right, fair enough. But getting back to Kat Kerr's wonderful book. She says in there that there was this the boy. She was there with a boy and a mother. Mother said to the boy, who his fish had passed away, and the boy said to her mother, "Oh, it's all right, because I'll meet that fish again in heaven one day." And the mother said, "I'm afraid fishes aren't resurrected." But Kat Kerr said, "Look, hang on a minute. I tend to disagree with you on that." And she was whisked up to heaven again, and she saw a mansion up there, this boy's mansion in the future. And in this mansion, there are all these aquariums sort of decked around the whole mansion with tubes linking the aquariums with water. So the fish was in there. This boy's fish was resurrected and alive in heaven. So Kat Kerr went back to the woman and said, "Look, this boy's fish is alive in heaven because I've just been there and I've seen it." In another story, this chap who had died, he wanted to go on a pilgrimage to Africa to see animals on a safari. He didn't get to do that because he hadn't got enough money. But when he went to heaven, he had his own mansion, of course, and lots of animals, safari animals, out in the garden. And he was dressed up like an African chief. And Jesus called him chief. And I think they were the ones that had a round of golf. Jesus and this chap. And Kat Kerr, of course, reports all this stuff back to the bereaved people, what the activities of the deceased in heaven with Jesus and golf and pizzas. She says they're these big pizzas and they're made of light, and you can eat as much as you want, and you don't defecate or anything. It's okay because it's just light. And pizzas are kind of like an American food, and they were imported by the Italians into America, and they're very popular in America. But the thing is, I was thinking, what about Chinese people who find pizzas, all that cheese and stuff, a bit revolting, perhaps? They're used to eating rice and noodles and stuff, and shellfish and all that. Well, anyway, that doesn't matter because heaven is a kind of an American-centric heaven. It's got a big amusement park up there with a what do you call it, a roller coaster. And the roller coaster sort of goes across from one place to other, across space, across free air, and lands on the other side. And all these angels are throwing up their hands and shouting and everything. And I mean, personally, I'd find it really boring, to be honest, to have a big mansion and everything, and nobody to share it with, and spend the whole time larking around in an amusement park. Hardly any worship of God. You get to see God sometimes. He's up there on the hill, if you can get past all the people lying on the ground. And but anyway, there you go. That's Kat Kerr's book, Revealing Pig's Crap 1 and 2, which you can get off the internet. And I also read, as I said, Richard Sigmund's book. He wrote that about 20 years ago, apparently. He was smashed up in a car like an accordion, he said. Of course, he was killed outright, but somehow he managed to write his book as well. People had done a bit of research, and they find that accident never actually happened. He was never involved in any accident. And I was listening to one of his videos, and he was saying how big his God was. He had this huge God, like a human being sitting on a huge throne, and his feet, you could see his toes or something. And somebody asked him how big God was. Oh, it's the size of Kansas. And I heard that a couple of times, and I thought that's just a bit silly, really. How can God be the size of Kansas? He's either 100 feet tall or he's not. How can he be the size of Kansas? Well, anyway, I better finish this now because my time's running out.